today I'm going to be showing you and going through my latest draft. I've got two drafts to show you in this video. One is my main draft, as you might call it, that I can't stop tinkering with. And then I've also got a separate draft, but I'll go through my reasoning behind each one of them. You can tell me which one you prefer and any changes you'd make in the comments. I'll then also do a quick section on captaincy at the end of the video, as I think there's some very good options for Game Week 1. So first off, we've got my no Salah draft. Now this is that main one I was talking about. So we'll start off with the defence as usual. So I've got Miguel in net. Reasoning behind this is I want to cover the Forest defence basically, and I want Forest number 1. I originally thought that was definitely going to be Miguel. He joined to basically help Forest with their set pieces. Last season, Forest was 20th for goals conceded from set pieces. So he's come in as a 6'8" goalkeeper with the idea of helping them from set pieces. But I've seen a lot of Forest fans talking about it this week. They actually think that Sells is still going to be number 1 because Sells has done nothing wrong particularly. And Miguel hasn't actually played a full season of professional football in his whole career, I don't think. So it'd be a bit weird for him to come in and, go straight into the Premier League as a number 1. So I'm actually a bit 50-50 on that choice at the minute. I still want the Forest number 1, but if I'm not sure of who the Forest number 1 is going to be come the start of the season, then I'm going to have to start looking elsewhere at 4.5 goalkeepers. Backup goalkeeper, I've got Brentford's second goalkeeper, Valdemarson, and that's just because if Flecken was to get injured, then he would be the second one, whereas someone like Turner that everyone's picking is third choice goalkeeper, so he's never going to play, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then Pedro Porro is a position I'm still debating, to be honest. There's a few options I could look at 5.5. I do like Timber, but he's not actually a guaranteed starter. Or I could actually drop down to another 4.5 million defender and use that extra million elsewhere in the team, but I really like Porro's attacking data, and he's already scored in a pre-season friendly for Tottenham. I love their opening fixtures of Leicester and Everton. He's got potential for a clean sheet and attacking returns in those. So yeah, I do like Porro as a pick. I've then got Gvardiol, who has been in all my teams since day one. I can't see myself going without him, to be honest. I think he'll be the highest scoring defender this season. He's kind of like a set and forget kind of player, similar to Trent coming up next. The opening fixture for City doesn't really bother me. They might concede to Chelsea, but Chelsea have also been weak defensively in pre-season. I like Gvardiol attacking-wise, to be honest. More through the eye test of last season rather than underlying data, but the positions he takes up are great. We saw it towards the end of last season. He got like 4 goals in the last 10 game weeks. When he's taking up those high positions up the pitch, against a team like Chelsea that are clearly struggling defensively, then you never know what could happen, so I'm willing to take that risk. And then I've also got Trent in. The fixtures are great, and obviously you'll see when I show the rest of the team like how I can afford him in this, but I do think it's a great idea to kind of start with the most expensive defender, and then if he does do really well, I've already got him. But if I don't have him and he'd start doing really well, then, I'm going to struggle to kind of get the money to fit him into the team. So with him in that starting back line, I don't have to worry about it. And effectively, with those 3, I've kind of got a set and forget defence for the entire season, obviously without injuries. So I'm really liking the look of that. I've then got Mikalenko on the bench at 4.5 million, who I really like Everton's fixtures throughout. I think it's the first 10 game weeks. They've got a couple in there that obviously you wouldn't play him for. But I think he rotates quite well with any of the 3 that I've got already in the starting 11, but specifically Porro, to be fair. And then I've also got Bellis from Southampton, who has already scored in pre-season, and realistically he's never going to be someone that I'm aiming to have in the starting 11. He's there as a £4 million bench option, right? But he does have Nottingham Forest in Game Week 2 and then Brentford in Game Week 3. If it turned out that, okay, I've spent loads of money in the defence, say because I've got Gvardiol and Trent, there's 6 million and 7 million, so I've spent a lot. One of them gets injured. I don't want to make any transfers. I don't have the money for it, blah, blah, blah. In Game Week 2, he is actually an option. I could use him if I needed to. So that's why he's in there. I've seen a lot of people going for Barco. I see why. I've seen him actually take some corners for Brighton in pre-season. But after Game Week 3, I think it is, Estepinian's expected to be back. Is he going to be first choice then? I'd rather not have someone that might not play after 3 game weeks, do you know what I mean? So that's the defence. Let's move on to the midfield. So here is obviously where you can see that we have no Mo Salah, which is how I've managed to afford a stronger defence, a more balanced team, I would say. So let's go through this. So let's start with Son. Son is my premium midfielder pick, and I've already spoken about Tottenham's fixtures with Leicester away in the first game week. Son has been absolutely banging pre-season. I don't know if you've seen any of them, but I know they're against weaker teams, but you have to have a strong start, especially with someone like Son, because he had that season where he didn't perform as well as we'd have expected him to. But once Son gets into form, he can be unbelievable. And I think he's at that point now, coming into the start of the season. That Leicester fixture is looking juicy to me. Again, as I already said, I'm speaking about captaincy later, but he is someone I'm thinking about for captaincy for Game Week 1. I'm expecting at least a double return, like a goal and an assist or something in that game. And so he's kind of my replacement for Salah in this particular draft. And I think he can match the points. Whether he can match it over the first 6 game weeks is what I'm kind of debating with. But then I've also got Szoboszlai in here. So Szoboszlai is kind of my cover for Salah in the Liverpool team. So Szoboszlai comes in at 6.5 million, and he also scored in pre-season. But then in their last pre-season game, I think it was against Arsenal this week, he didn't play in the number 10 role that people have been wanting him to or expecting him to play in. I don't know, it's a difficult one. If he's going to be playing in the deeper role that he was playing in last season, Szoboszlai is a no-go. I think he's going to be playing in that 10 role in the season, but we just can't be sure until Liverpool have got all their players back from on holiday, like the Euros and Copa America, everything like that. I do like Szoboszlai as an option if he's in that 10 role, but do I take the risk that he is going to start there? There's also a load of options at 6.5 million that I could go for. And Nkunku, I don't know, Bailey looks good to me. Even Gibbs-White I like, but I've left it at Szoboszlai for now, and I'll, again, keep watching pre-season, see how it goes. I've then got Eze in. He's a really popular choice this year. Palace's talisman. Brentford away, first fixture. Palace don't actually have the easiest set of fixtures to come into. They're not bad. But I love Eze as a player. I think he's absolute quality. He is actually a position I have been debating, because I might get him blindsided by the fact that I like him as a player and not looking at him as an FPL option and the fixtures that they've got. I've got him in there at the minute because I think 7 million is a steal for him, right? But there is a side of me that is looking at it like I could go down to another 6.5 and have another 0.5 million elsewhere to spend. But I just love Eze. That's what's drawing me to him. And then Gordon's a similar one. Gordon's actually, there's been a lot of rumours around him going to Liverpool, which would make Liverpool an even more of a headache in terms of their starting 11. So if Gordon does go to Liverpool, he'll be a no-go for me. I just can't deal with that headache. But if he was to stay at Newcastle, I think he's a fantastic option with their first 2 fixtures. Southampton at home, first game week. Well, I mean, we've seen it before with Southampton. That could be 7-8-0. So I really like Gordon as an option, but obviously if he's leaving, then that changes my opinion on him completely. At 7.5, he's just that step ahead of those 6.5, like Nkunku that I was talking about before. But for me, if he's at Newcastle, it's worth the extra million for him. And then finally, my 5.5 million player that kind of is the budget enabler is Hudson-Odoi at the minute, just purely because of the fixtures Forest have got. I don't particularly, his underlying data isn't good, but then the chances that he takes on don't particularly create good underlying data, if that makes sense. So you've got to go off the eye test. He's been doing all right in pre-season, but there's a few other options at 5.5. I've talked about Andreas before, who I quite like. Their fixtures do get quite good. They've got Leicester and Ipswich in the first 3, I think it is, and he's on penalties. So there's a few other options. Smith Rowe just joined Fulham. I like that option. Minte from Brighton looks a good player. He's also at 5.5, so there's plenty of options. If I was to start with Hudson-Odoi at the start of the season, he's got the first 3 really good game weeks, and then I can start to have a look at other options if it doesn't go to plan. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to think ahead in these kind of scenarios. So that's the midfield. A lot of people will look at it and think it looks a little bit weak compared to theirs because I've only got the one premium midfielder in Son. But I really like it. I think it makes a lot of balance throughout the team, and then obviously I'll show you my attack now. So in attack I've got Haaland and Isak. So overall I've not really lost out on anything because I've got Haaland, the £15 million highest ever priced player in FPL. And then I've got Isaac, who I think is going to be the highest owned player in the entirety of FPL by the start of the season. He scored in the second minute of their pre-season game this week. He's on penalties. Wilson's injured. Like, Isaac is just such a good pick. It's crazy. Southampton at home. He could score a hat-trick. And then Haaland. Everyone's obviously still debating between Haaland and Salah. And here I've gone with Haaland, but I can't see myself going without Haaland. It has been mentioned this week from Pep that Haaland does have some niggles. Now, he did say this last year as well, so I don't really know what to think of it right now. Erling Haaland is suffering from some niggles, says Pep Guardiola. He had some niggles, he didn't feel good, and that's why he didn't play the second half. So, I mean, take from that what you will, but I can't go without him. That second game against Ipswich at home, I need to have Haaland captained in my team, and it's always the same with Pep, isn't it? Like, he'll say these things and then he'll start every game week, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But that is my full draft. I've got Ladapo on the bench for Ipswich. That could be any 4.5 million attacker. I'd just pick Ladapo because I thought, he could be an option for Ipswich. He might start, he might get a lucky goal, but realistically that position is going to be sat on my bench every week, so yeah, not too much to think into there. And yeah, that's my draft. I'm pretty happy with it. But so now I've got a different draft to show you. So this draft's got a much cheaper defence. I've still got Gvardiol in there. I think he's the best defensive option, basically. I've changed from Miguel to Flecken in this one because I just wanted a different option. And with going with the Flecken and Valdemarsson pair up, obviously I'm going to have a starting keeper every week because they're the only two options for Brentford. So even if Flecken was to get injured, I don't have to make any transfers. So I think he's a good option. He's got Liverpool in game week 2, which is obviously not a good fixture. And having the two Brentford keepers means I have to have one of them against Liverpool. But he's a set and forget keeper. We don't have to worry about it. He's got good fixtures after that. So I think Flecken is a good option. And then I've had to downgrade Trent and Porro in this draft to bring in Livramento and Aina from Forest. Livramento could be any of the Newcastle defenders. I've just picked him because I think he might be starting now, because there's rumours that Trippier's going to leave, and I think Livramento should be next choice. I've looked at Hall as well, and I think he's a good option. Hall also scored in the pre-season game, so he's someone to keep an eye on. But I've just gone with Livramento. He could be any Newcastle defender, and they've obviously got a really good fixture with Southampton in the first game. And then Aina, I think, is Forest's best defensive option. I've heard that from a few Forest fans as well. They've got Bournemouth at home in the first game. Clean sheet potential. His attacking runs are quite good. So that's my back line on this one. I've still got Mikolenko and Bellis on the bench. Good rotations. It's a cheaper defence, but I'm not so sure I'd describe it as a weaker defence. I still think it's quite strong. So then when you add the midfield into it, I've obviously got Salah in here now. So having Salah means that I don't have as much money to spend elsewhere, but I cannot go without Son in those first 2 game weeks. So I've managed to fit Son in as well. So here you already know it's a Haaland and Salah draft. So here, you already know that I've got Haaland, Salah and Son. So it's already looking very, very strong. Salah is obviously a captaincy option for game week 1, Ipswich away. He just scored in the recent, in Liverpool's pre-season game against Arsenal. So the reason I was looking without Salah is because I was a bit worried about the position he'd be playing under Slot. But now that, he's kind of proven himself that he's still going to be involved in all the goals, I can't really go without him either. So I do like this draft with Salah in it. I've paired him up with Nkunku in the middle, because obviously in the last draft I had Szoboszlai at 6.5, but he was only to cover Salah really. So now that I've got him, I can pick a different player. Nkunku's obviously got Man City first game week, which is going to be tough, but Nkunku's been banging in penalties really in pre-season, but he's been banging in the goals nonetheless. And then after Man City, they've got a crazy good run of fixtures, so Nkunku's effectively then a set and forget as well. You just put him in every game. And then I've carried on with Hudson-Odoi at 5.5. It could be any of the 5.5s like I was speaking about in the other team, but I just like Hudson-Odoi for those first 3 game weeks. And then I've actually got Rak-Saki on the bench for Crystal Palace, but I've just seen that he actually wants to leave Crystal Palace this summer, I think. I don't know why I haven't seen this before, But he was doing quite well in pre-season. He scored like 3 goals. But he hasn't gone on the tour with them or something, so completely ignore that. I'll be changing that as soon as I finish recording this video. He will not be in my team if there's any risk of him not being anywhere near the squad. So that's the midfield, and then obviously in attack, you already know that Haaland is going to be there, but I've paired him up again with Isaac. Spoken about this already, can't go without Isaac. But I've actually got João Pedro back in there. Now, I spoke about this last week. He didn't go on Brighton's pre-season tour with an injury, but he's actually back in training now. That got announced yesterday, I think. So we'll have to keep an eye on Brighton's pre-season to see whether he gets... I think they're playing QPR this weekend. We'll have to keep an eye on whether he gets any minutes. They don't have the best run of fixtures to start the season. Once they get past those first few, the run gets a lot better. And I actually don't mind playing him against Everton away in the first game. So that kind of brings in a 3-4-3 formation. You could obviously change that around. You could drop João Pedro down to a 4.5 attacker that goes on your bench, and then you bring up your midfielder at 4.5 to a 5.5, so then you've got 2 5.5s, but I just wanted to spread the money around a bit more so that I had more in the attack. But overall, I think it looks like a really balanced team. It's just whether it's worth having that stronger defence where it's like set and forget the whole season, but you're losing Salah, or whether you bring the defence down to 4.5s and then you strengthen everywhere else. So, yeah, it's a tough decision. Please let me know which one you prefer in the comments, because I'm struggling between the two. I think at the minute, I prefer the Haaland and Salah one, purely because, like I was saying with Trent, you've then got those highest priced players. It's so easy to come down from them to a better player if they don't perform. But if they bang in the goals and you want them in your team, you've got to rip it up to bring them in. So I like starting with them and then going from there. Now finally, we'll just have a quick look at captaincy options. So out of that team, we've obviously got Salah, Isak, Son and Haaland. I think for the first game week you can take Haaland away, because I think the other 3 are better. There's every chance in the world that Haaland could go and bang 2, even 3 goals against Chelsea with how they've been defending. But I think you have to look at the fixture, right? When you've got Haaland against Chelsea and Salah against Ipswich, you pick Salah out of the 2. So, in my opinion, Salah is going to be the main captaincy option for game week 1. And I do like it, but I feel like Isak and Son have both got a higher ceiling for the first game week. So Isak plays Southampton at home. I genuinely think he could score a hat-trick. And Son against Leicester, I know it's an away fixture, but even so, with how Son's been playing, I could see him scoring 2, maybe even 3. If you were to captain someone like Son, who's got a lower... At the minute, he's got a lower ownership. If you were to captain him, the green arrow you could be seeing if Salah doesn't perform in that first game week, and that's a big if, you could be winning FPL after the first game, do you know what I mean? It's a tough decision to make between the 3 of them. At the minute, I think I'm actually on Son captain for game week 1. But it could be any of those 3. Haaland, I think, for me, is out of the question for the first game week. He'll then be my captain for game week 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 as well. But the first game week is between those 3, and I just don't know which one. So please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments as well. Let me know any changes you might make to the 2 drafts that I've shown you today. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.